Elena froze. She stood perfectly still in her hallway, holding her breath. Her heart was beating fast, thump, thump, thump. She was not hiding from the police. She was not hiding from a criminal. She was hiding from Steve. Steve was her neighbor. He was standing on her front porch, holding a plate of cookies and wearing a bright smile. He just wanted to say hello. He just wanted to talk. But for Elena, opening that door was terrifying. Why? Because she was afraid her English wasn't good enough. She was afraid of the awkward silence. She reached for the door handle, her hand shaking. She knew she couldn't hide forever. But before we find out what happens when she opens the door. Hello, English learners. I am so happy you are here. In this episode, you will learn English by listening to the story of Elena, a woman who moves to the United States and faces her biggest fear, small talk. We are going to improve your listening skills, expand your vocabulary, and help you feel more confident when speaking to strangers. Pay close attention today. We are going to focus on 3 specific power words that will appear in the story: intimidating, spontaneous, and break the ice. Are you ready to improve your English? Let's step into the story. Elena had just moved to a town called Maplewood, somewhere in the middle of America. It was a beautiful place. The houses were painted in soft colors, white, yellow, and light blue. The grass was perfectly green. It looked like a movie set. But for Elena, Maplewood was intimidating. Let me rephrase that. To be intimidating means something is scary, or makes you feel small and nervous. Elena felt small, because everything in America felt so big. The cars were big. The portions of food at restaurants were big. And the personalities of the people were very big. In her home country, people were polite, but they were private. If you saw a neighbor, you nodded your head and kept walking. You respected their silence. But in Maplewood, it was a different world. Every time Elena walked to her mailbox, someone would wave. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" they would shout. "How are those tomatoes growing?" they would ask. Elena would panic. Her mind would go blank. She would just smile, say yes, thank you, and run back inside her house. She felt rude, but she wasn't rude. She was just a perfectionist. She hated making grammar mistakes. She thought that if she used the wrong verb tense, her neighbors would judge her. The neighbor she feared the most was Steve. Steve lived directly across the street. He was a retired man with white hair and a loud laugh. He spent hours in his garage, fixing things and washing his car. Steve was the king of spontaneous conversations. When I say spontaneous, I mean something that happens suddenly, without planning. Steve didn't plan his conversations. He just started talking whenever he saw someone. One Saturday morning, Elena decided to work in her garden. She thought she was safe. It was early, only 7 a.m. She put on her gardening gloves and started planting flowers. She was enjoying the peace and quiet. The dirt felt cool in her hands. The sun was warm on her back. She felt calm. Suddenly, a shadow fell over her flowers. "Looks like you're putting in some petunias," a voice boomed. Elena jumped. It was Steve. He was leaning over the small white fence that separated their yards. He was holding a cup of coffee. "Oh. Hello, Steve," Elena said, her voice tight. She stood up, wiping the dirt from her hands. "My wife, Martha, loves petunias," Steve said. He pointed at the flowers. "But we can never keep them alive. The rabbits eat them." "Do you have trouble with rabbits?" Elena's brain froze. Rabbits. She knew the word rabbit. But she wasn't prepared to talk about gardening pests. She wanted to say, "I haven't seen any rabbits yet, but I will buy a fence if necessary." But instead, she panicked. She said, "No. I don't like rabbits." Steve blinked. He looked confused. "Oh? Right. Well, they are pests, aren't they?" An awkward silence filled the air. Elena wanted the ground to swallow her up. She felt she had killed the conversation. She didn't know how to break the ice again. To break the ice means to say or do something to relieve tension and get a conversation started. Elena didn't know how to fix the situation. "Well," Steve said, shifting on his feet. "Let me know if you need any fertilizer. I have a whole bag in the garage." "Thank you," Elena whispered. Steve walked away. Elena went back inside her house and sat on her sofa. She felt defeated. She thought, "Why is this so hard? It's just small talk." But the universe had a plan for Elena. 2 days later, a massive storm hit Maplewood. Let's pause the story for just a moment. Elena is sitting on her sofa, feeling sad. But before we see what happens with the storm, let's look at those 3 power words we heard. Word number 1, intimidating. This describes something that makes you feel fearful or nervous, often because it is large or powerful. Example, the large dog looked intimidating, but he was actually very friendly. Word number 2, spontaneous. This describes something done suddenly, without a plan. It is natural and impulsive. Example, we took a spontaneous trip to the beach, because the weather was so nice. Word number 3, to break the ice. This means to end the awkward silence and start a conversation with someone you don't know well. Example, he told a joke to break the ice at the start of the meeting. Got it? Good. Now, back to Maplewood. The storm is coming. The sky turned a dark, bruised purple. The wind began to howl around the corners of Elena's house. It wasn't just a rain shower, it was a severe summer storm. Elena was in her kitchen making tea when the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then, darkness. The power was out. She looked out the window. The entire street was dark. The street lights were off. The houses were black. It was completely pitch black, except for the lightning flashes. Suddenly, she heard a loud crash from the front yard. Elena grabbed a flashlight and ran to the front door. She opened it and shined the light into the rain. A large tree branch had fallen across her driveway. It was blocking her car. But that wasn't the problem. The branch had also smashed her mailbox. And standing there, in the pouring rain, wearing a yellow raincoat, was Steve. He was already there. He was pulling at the heavy branch, trying to move it off her driveway. He was soaked. He was struggling. Elena forgot her fear. She forgot about grammar. She forgot about verb tenses. She just saw a neighbor who needed help. She ran out into the rain. Steve. Wait. She grabbed the other end of the branch. Ready, she shouted over the wind. 1, 2, 3, lift. Together, they heaved the heavy wood. They moved it onto the grass. They were both breathing heavily, water dripping from their noses. Steve looked at her and laughed. It was a loud, happy laugh. That was a big one. I saw it fall and thought it might hit your car. Thank you, Elena said. She was shivering. You came out in the rain for me. Of course, Steve said, wiping rain from his eyes. That's what neighbors do. We look out for each other. Elena looked at Steve. She didn't see an intimidating American man anymore. She saw a kind grandfather, who just wanted to be helpful. Steve, Elena said, and this time her voice was steady. I made tea. But the power is out. I have a gas stove, so the water is hot. Would you like a cup? To warm up? Steve smiled. It was a genuine, warm smile. I would love that, Elena. And maybe I can bring some cookies. My wife baked too many. They sat in Elena's kitchen, lit only by a candle and a flashlight. They drank tea and ate cookies. They didn't talk about philosophy or politics. They engaged in small talk. They talked about the weather. They talked about how fast the grass grows. They talked about Steve's grandchildren and Elena's family back home. Elena made mistakes. She used the wrong prepositions. She forgot the word for lightning and called it sky fire. Did Steve care? No. He understood her perfectly. Elena realized something important that night. Small talk isn't a test. It isn't an exam you have to pass. Small talk is just a bridge. It is a way to say, I see you, and I am friendly. By the time the lights came back on, Elena wasn't afraid of her neighbors anymore. She realized that the grammar didn't matter. The connection mattered. Elena learned that perfection is the enemy of connection. If you wait until your English is perfect to speak, you will be lonely. But if you are brave enough to make mistakes, you might find a great friend. The moral of the story is this: people do not listen to your grammar, they listen to your heart. Now, I have a question for you. I want you to answer in the comments below. Do you know your neighbors? If you saw them outside today, what would you say to them to break the ice? Write your opening sentence in the comments. I will read them and correct your grammar. If you want to speak English fluently and confidently, click that subscribe button. In the next episode, we are going to tell a story about ordering food in a busy restaurant. Another scary situation. Thank you for listening. Keep practicing, stay spontaneous, and I'll see you in the next story.